Today we're talking about the dysfunctional U.S. government, and our claim is the U.S. government has become a machine for power and profit and less for the people, by the people. So the way our government works today is we have a system of checks and balances, and how that works is there are three branches of the U.S. government: the judicial, legislative, and the executive branch. The legislative branch is the branch that represents the House of Representatives and the Senate and Congress. The executive branch is the president and his cabinet, and then the judicial branch is the U.S. Supreme Court. How checks and balances work is the legislative branch or the executive branch can propose a bill. Both need to pass the executive and legislative branches. Both need to be agreed on and ratified, and then it is submitted to the executive branch for review to see if it is constitutional. And if it is deemed unconstitutional, then the bill will not go to pass. The executive branch can veto any bill proposed by the legislative branch if the executive branch thinks it is unconstitutional. If done correctly, the system can work fluently and problems can be addressed and solutions proposed and passed only in a matter of days or even hours. How it works today is the last bill to pass the Senate with bipartisan support was the stopgap bill, and this bill was to delay a government shutdown. Not indefinitely, but instead at least for after the holidays. The Senate will reconvene after the holiday season. The formation of the 118th Senate, which first convened a little under a year ago, has since passed almost 467 bills. About 1/3 of those bills concern the U.S. population. The other 2/3 passed are on foreign relations and concerned with a governmental program to help out politicians and Congress and such. About 96% of the bills passed this year were bipartisan supported, meaning both parties supported the passing of these bills. Our President Joe Biden has vetoed 8 bills this year, 6 of which were proposed by Republicans. For a little over 10 years, the polarity of Republicans and Democrats has been at an all-time high, causing Senate stalemates and often just government shutdowns, as we saw in 2021. For a good 2 months, the United States couldn't find a Speaker of the House, almost causing a government shutdown, which stopgap bill was passed to limit that. None of these points support checks and balances or how politicians should act. In regards to the American people, gas is the highest it's been in decades, inflation out of control, and it is more cost-effective to move to another country than to buy a house in the United States housing market. Today, Dylan will be talking about elections and politicians.
Hello. Elections and politicians. Super PACs are federal independent-only political committees that can receive unlimited donations and sums of money from individuals. Super PACs are required to be transparent about their donations. Super PACs on both sides of the political spectrum have millions of dollars of hidden money from the public going to individuals of the elections. They're required to at least show where their donation money comes from to the FEC, but they say it's nonprofit organizations because that is what makes it legal, which then keeps their donors hidden and safe from the public. Major super PACs have received millions and millions of dollars, and sometimes their whole campaign from these hidden donors. These large sums of money from these hidden donors heavily influence the turnout of these elections because the politicians will be able to say whatever the donors want them to say, since they have unlimited amounts of money. They're handing off to Brandon.
Big government equals big business. Big corporations are some of the biggest donors to political parties and have been for decades. Corporations are supporters of big government, as big government will have more of a say in society. Big government is way for governments to have a say in everyday life for regular population. As Americans, right to privacy is a huge issue in our society, especially in an advanced country with large amounts of technology. The first step to corporations taking over is the right to privacy and how the government works hand in hand to invade the private lives of Americans and try to profit off the desires of the populations. With the amount that corporations donate to some politicians, it's hard to say if there was more government control. It wouldn't be just the government in control. The amount of money funneled into the government from corporations is almost enough to purchase a new government. With big government comes big corporations. The two are indivisible and will always support each other as long as money is going into a politician's pocket. the opposition's argument. Socialists and supporters of big government hold the spot for the opposition. Socialists believe that the government is put in place to protect and regulate our lives. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, a changing party makeup, and a softening approach to debt, supporters are embracing expensive policies and federal government expansion. These supporters are convinced that even Republicans want government expansion. Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez is a prime example of the opposition. She advocates for tuition-free public college, Medicare for all, and to abolish immigration and customs enforcement. With our president leading the charge, something needs to change. The policies Biden is focusing on, such as oil, gas, and increased focus on climate change, are too progressive for average Americans and is not helping the economy as a whole. The American way of life. The U.S. government is a slow, dysfunctional, corrupted machine that values profit and power over the American people. Officially, the United States is a constitutional republic. We elect officials to represent we as a region and want change in society. Those officials, however, oftentimes are plagued by greed and value profit from a corporation over the say of the region that they are elected to represent. For the future, voters must be wary of who they vote for. What are the true intentions of a politician, and what or who is paying for their campaign? That should be the main question in an election. With more politicians that value the people over profit, there is sure to be change for the better for the American people. I'll pass it over to Sam.
Thank you, Braden. As we conclude our argument, and we end with the U.S. dissatisfaction in the population. For years, the population of the United States has yelled cries for help with the economy and everyday spending. The only thing Congress has been able to pass to actually help inflation in the spending market is a bill to pass on stocks. This past year, a bill was passed to help stockholders protect their savings in case of another crash. Last time a bill like this was passed was on Black Tuesday in October of 1939, the eve of the Great Depression. Since 2007, we've been through 2 recessions and are currently on the verge of another one. In 2008, the housing market crashed, and little has been done to help the population buy homes. In fact, many families result in being a part of urbanization and move to large cities and live in small, $1,000 a month apartments. This should outrage people, as voters for years have asked their politicians to help them. Not even a proposed bill comes during their term. The only interest politicians have is their own and what corporations funded their campaign. The solution is not socialism. The only way to enact change is to change the way you vote. Many politicians just want power, and it's hard to tell exactly what their motives are. However, just changing the way you vote or researching a third party and voting for them can make a difference in the government. And if you feel that won't do anything, there are airports in many countries that offer asylum to those who seek it. The country won't get better by people not interacting with the systems in place to invoke change. Change starts with everyone's vote. So just research who you vote for and who they are funded by. Big government will equal to total control and dissatisfaction. We chose this claim more which because most of us are going to be voting in the next term, and it's just more important to worry about the people who are voting. There are systems for the U.S. government to change. Right now it's very corrupted and it's very slow and dysfunctional. It's not the way it was intended to be used for. So we did this claim to bring light to the people who will be voting in the next election, and just worry about who you're voting for and what politicians' true intentions are. Then sources. We're all responsible for all of this. We all did the